All right, welcome back to PlanetGenX. How you doing,
What's
B?
up, everybody?
Yeah,
Good. How are you?
man. Excited to be here. Excited to be here.
Excited to be anywhere.
Yeah, man. Just happy that we got that first episode under our belt, and here we are for a second episode. And looking back, man, I was like, Jesus Christ! Talk about ADHD being the topic of the first episode. I was all over the road, and thank God I had you with our outline to just kind of keep me in check. But yeah, we were all over the place. Or I was.
I mean, that's going to be par for the course.
Yeah,
right?
I mean that is what makes a Gen X a Gen X. It seems like we all have ADHD, but
right.
Yeah, it's part of it, man, for sure. And I guess hell, out of the box since I brought it up. There was the huge part of that was going to be specifically ADHD and gaming, and really is more or less just relating, what it was like for me, and I'm sure this is probably going to relate for a lot of people. I recently I've been upgrading a lot of computers. My desktop here is getting on in time, and the only thing I have is a decent laptop. That's like one of those deals where you buy a gaming laptop, but you don't quite have the money, so you go for the spindle drive instead of the SSD and all that. Lower memory, blah, blah, blah. So it has the potential to be good, and now it is. I upped the RAM, put an SSD in it, and boom, now it's a pretty decent laptop. Yeah.
2 SSDs, right?
Well, it's got an SSD, and I kept it. It's got a hybrid, which, those are the strange birds, half SSD, right. And it sucks. Those things they barely get a performance boost in game. Booting, you get none. Right, but anyway, I digress. But it's a good for just dumping whatever on, so it can still be a decent video drive or whatever, for just doing whatever, or just holding games that don't need a lot of long load times or whatever.
Right.
But anyway, so I started messing with that, and I was like, okay, well, I'm going to make this the gaming laptop. This is where it has Bluetooth, so I can use my controller and everything, whereas I don't have that luxury with the desktop unless I plug it in,
Right.
So it had a lot of great benefits. So I just started, let's get some games on this thing, let's test it out. I was running benchmarks and stuff all over it, see how good I could get it, and started putting my games on, and before I realized it, man, I'm like, oh my God. So it's like, I want Witcher 3, I want Cyberpunk on here, I want, the latest flight simulator. What's some of the other good ones that I probably have on here?
Did you put Fallen Order on it?
No, but I have. I was trying to put Fallout on it, and that ended up being an issue. But that's on the Xbox, so no big deal. But anyway, yeah, I ended up, and I've got like American Truck Driver Simulator. I was an old truck driver back in the day, y'all. So just having all that, and it's funny, out of all those games, Red Dead Redemption 2. Yeah. Out of all these games, I've played Red Dead, and American Truck Driver Simulator, and actually that's the one I've played the most, was the American Truck Driver Simulator, which is the most basic of the games. It looks good, but it's still just it's not a AAA game. Let's put it that way. It still looks good, but it's not a AAA game.
Of course, we live in an era where there's a lot of room for not AAA games.
Oh, right? Sure, yeah. Especially in this day and age, man. You can do a lot by yourself or with a small team, man. It's a lot different than it used to be.
Darkest Dungeon, great example.
Yes. But what I find myself doing is like, what the hell am I doing? I've got all these games on here, and for somebody like me, it's a nightmare. It's like making these expectations that I'm going to play. First of all, I hope I play any one of them. That's the first hope, right? After I do all this stuff, then I just stick it in a corner somewhere, right? That's the biggest fear, and because that can easily happen, and it has. I've pulled it back out, thankfully, because my wife's gotten on the Xbox, so we kind of play together. I totally
didn't expect to speak on this point today, but I've got my own stories in that vein as of recent.
Well, then good. I mean, so you can relate. And I mean, this goes with anything. But, I said I wanted it specific to gaming. But, like that guitar I said that's right here finally got played this week too. But, I mean, it's like more often than not, man, like I'll go through all that upgrade, right? So that was a lot of effort getting through that upgrade. To everybody else, it didn't look like no effort. It was a lot for me, but once that was done, that's a major hurdle. So got the games on, everything else, boom, chuck it in a corner. That's the first thing liable to happen. So I'm lucky that I've played it, but it's more just wanting to spend time with my wife. She's been in here. She's been playing on the Xbox. So it's been cool and conducive to that kind of thing.
Oh, yeah.
But at the same time, she's been in here recently too, and I've been just busy as hell, other stuff, and laptop back in the corner.
And I'm sure you share a similar issue with me. I'm pretty sure it's an ADHD thing. It's the ability to concentrate on anything when somebody else is doing something in your vicinity.
Yeah.
Like, if they say one single thing to you while you're concentrating really hard, it totally derails.
Yeah. Yeah.
Right?
It's weird how you actually did it earlier. I was doing something, you were asking me something, and I hear it, but it's bouncing around. It's up in here bouncing around in my head, man. and maybe it'll get to the part where I can answer you eventually, or I'm just going to give you the answer I gave you, which is, sorry, I'm doing something right now.
right.
It's like, I got you, but I'm in the middle of something trying to read.
Well, you're like me. I'm the worst about being an asshole in those types of situations. I'm like, look, I'm busy with something right now. I can't talk. I can't deal with whatever you're dealing with. And the theory is that I should be saying, I will get back to you as soon as I'm available. Or, as soon as I'm done with this, your next thing on my list, whatever. But I'm just being an ass, and I'm just like, I don't have time for this.
Hey, you know what? I don't mind, especially I would prefer if you give just like, and me, I don't mind being up front. That's my thing. That's why I always get called an ass. If you just say, 1 sec, put a finger up, right. 1 sec, or something like that, or hang on, just a hang on, just a verbal, whatever. Give me that, but don't do what my boss does, which is sit there. This is dude. He cannot read and listen to anything going on around him to save his life.
Gotcha.
And that's fine. He don't give no commands that he can't. That he's not hearing you. No, 1 sec, I'm doing something. Nothing.
Right.
He's just going on about his business and will let you do a full dissertation. On whatever.
It doesn't even say anything about.
Doesn't say anything, and then looks up at you, when he's done, and just like nothing had ever happened. I'm like, dude, did you hear me?
Right.
No, I didn't. I'm like, God, come on, man. And it happens way too often to be. I'm being way too kind right now. You have to understand. I want to go off.
No, I get it.
Very big tangent right now.
No, it's good to be kind because everybody knows how it is dealing with bosses, right?
Well, yeah, and this bosses go, he's all right. It's not just that, but I could go off on a tangent now about people and phones and paying attention and just the rudeness of it. When somebody's talking to you and you got your nose buried in it and you can't be bothered to look up for a second, that's the rant. That I'm sandwiched in the middle of it between my wife and him right now, and both being very hard of hearing. It is like I am getting it from both sides, man. I talk low. I'm getting awarded all the time. Oh my God. Ugh. Yeah. Anyway, I've digressed so much from the actual topic. So I want to hear your.
Yeah, let's get back to a recent story. ADHD and gaming.
Yeah,
I do. Well, there are a couple actually. I usually can't play AAA games as soon as they come out. There are exceptions here and there of exceptional games where I will make it, but my budget, I just can't afford to play it. All the games I'm wowed by when they come out.
Right.
So a lot of times I'm forced to play older games, and I've been playing Evil Within 2 recently, or okay. I was.
All right.
And then about a week ago, I wanted a little more variety. Some new free stuff came out, so I picked up all of the Dishonored stuff for free from a variety of like GOG and Epic and all these other places.
Well, you see, EA has that Dishonored right now.
Yep.
Yeah.
So I got a little distracted with that because it was kind of easier to navigate that late at night as opposed to a horror survival game.
Yeah.
Where you get hints.
Right.
And so I haven't been back to the Evil Within since. And the next story is, if you didn't know, Morrowind, Elder Scrolls 3 is now free on, I think, Steam and GOG.
Is it?
Steam and somewhere else, yeah.
Wow.
I've had that thing on my computer for 2 days now. Haven't even opened it. The whole time I've been theory crafting a mage that I want to play in, as opposed to actually playing the game.
This sounds very familiar because that game has been installed on my computer since it came out at least 3 or 4 times and never actually been opened but once.
Right.
And I was just like, I walked around for a minute. I mean, I was probably in it for 5 minutes, and I was like, alrighty. And I never came back to it, man. Never came back to it.
It's just so easy to get sidetracked in theory crafting for me. And that's a big part of my ADHD.
Well, yeah, and when I saw what that game was involved, how involved it was, I was like, no, dude, there's no fucking way. I got to do this. Like, I have this 5-minute YouTube rule that you'll get better algorithm pulls if you don't cuss for the first couple minutes. So I hope I did that.
Right.
But yeah, I mean, I forgot what I was talking about, man. I derailed myself. Oh well. Is that the only story you had?
Theory crafting, I think.
Oh yeah. Well, I see stuff like that, and it's just like just give me something simple. Like, for example, and we'll bring this, talking about some other games later. But you I told you my wife's playing Fable, and you said you don't really care for Fable, and Fable has a lot of potential. And they didn't meet it in each one, but each one met it better, if that makes any sense.
Yeah, no, it does, totally.
And I'm hoping this new version that's coming out is going to finally... And now, it's funny because Peter Molyneux's not involved with it at all, so I think maybe his vision will actually finally get realized without him. I don't know. But that, to me, the Fable games are perfect for somebody with ADHD. Because you don't have to overthink it, but you can still have a good time. You can still get the feeling. Sure.
Just Morrowind, I did want to make the comment. You can get deep into theory crafting, efficient leveling, all that stuff into it that you want. But it is also a game where you can just dive right in and play, because it kind of has a balance to where even a poorly built character can do things. So that's a choice I make, that I'm going to play it the way that I want to play it, as opposed to how everybody else on forums is like, just dive in, play what you want to play.
Yeah. I don't know if I'll ever play it. It's hard to say. It's less likely with every passing year. Because everything we were saying makes it sound a lot more like you have to do. Right.
What we were talking
about. Sure. Yeah. No, you're right. Because, I mean, that was just my first impressions. Obviously, with 5 minutes, I have no idea what that game's about, honestly. Right. The graphics were a bit of a disappointment. I felt EverQuested on the graphics. Well, I really did. And that's why I didn't touch EverQuest at all. Thank God.
It's an old game.
Yeah, it is. But, I mean, even back then, you got to understand, it was still, to me, for the day, it seemed like it lacked. And maybe and I haven't looked at it in a while. Maybe I'm wrong about that.
You're on board with that. It was very, very polygonal. It did have a lot of EverQuest vibes to it. I can totally see where you're coming from with that.
Yeah. Okay. Well, I don't want to give it a bad rap if it didn't deserve it, but that's just my memory of it. No.
But it was just something that game mechanics in it were a lot different from everything else that was being played at the time.
Well, look, they must have done something right.
Right?
Yeah, and then you got a sequel out of it. Doesn't that where Skyrim comes from?
Yeah, well, there's a whole history to it. We'll do a brief thing on it. First, you had Arena, basically supposed to be based on tabletop gaming. Smaller world, still a lot of stuff to do in it. Kind of similar play, but a lot different. I don't know really how to put that into more understandable terms. But then there was Arena, kind of like an expansion of the world and fine-tuning of a lot of the in-game systems and whatnot. And Morrowind is what followed after that. And that's where they got into the whole build your skill levels up, 2 gain, A level, allocate your attribute points. From that came Oblivion, which was much worse. Everybody complains about it because you really do have to micromanage your leveling in it.
Now, I know I had that one, and that might be why. That's because I remember that one specifically because I got it where it had the expansion.
Right. And then, of course, Skyrim came after that.
Right.
Which was kind of a modder's dream at one point.
Now, here's something interesting. Somebody, now, speaking, this ties into the Fable thing, because my wife is done with Fable 3, she thinks. Now, I'm telling her to go play this Fable 1 we have, because it's the redo with all the extra shit we've never played. So she may do that, but what's that?
Was that one heavy cell shading?
The first one...
Or was it the second one?
Kind of. I mean, they all kind of have a cellish look to them in a way.
Yeah.
But anyway, so one of her friends at work or whatever, coworkers, suggested Skyrim to her because we can play it on Game Pass now.
Oh, cool.
And to me, and I've never even seen Skyrim, bro. Never even turned it on, never downloaded, never even seen it. So I have no idea what to expect. But I wouldn't think it would be something that she could go with the expectation. She needs something like lateral with Fable.
Yeah. I get what you're saying. Skyrim is one of those more open world type games where there's a lot in the world that you won't experience if you just go in a linear path.
Right. That's why I told her about Fable. I was like, get out there and explore. It's like one of the first open world games before open world games were even thought of. And that's what's fun about going back and playing this, because it's truly like that. I mean, there are there's load screens of a sort, but it's really open world to me.
Yeah. Well, I mean, back in the day, let's go back to EverQuest. Still pretty much open world, but its own, right?
Yeah. Yeah, well, they were the pioneers of everything, really.
Yeah.
MMORPGs. It wasn't even a term before EverQuest came around. Kids, you weren't even born yet. Game.
We kind of missed the intro part. This is supposed to be a Star Wars heavy episode.
It is. It is supposed to be a Star Wars centric episode.
But we are ADHD as hell. So,
yep, that's
so
right.
this will happen.
I knew if I didn't focus in on that one thing that I missed last week, that we'd never get it in there probably. But you set me up nicely too, or maybe I set myself up. I don't know. We brought up ADHD. Anyway, yes, very Star Wars centric episode.
Every fanboy's wet dream, Star Wars, right? Everything Star Wars, except for he who we shan't mention.
Right? Yeah, it was 1977. A wonderful year. We were born.
A wee babe.
Yes, we were both wee babes, very tiny babes. But we breathed the same air.
Yes. We experienced the same wonder and joy of the worlds of Coruscant, Tatooine.
That's right.
Well, no, Coruscant wasn't really in the first.
No. Well, it is now, but they didn't have it then. Because they added it to the end of one.
Alderaan, Tatooine, the Death Star.
Yeah, I'm trying to...
Those were like the big locations I can remember right off the top of my head.
Right, yeah.
I think Dantooine was mentioned, but we didn't really go there, right?
Yes. Yeah, there was a lot of mentioned stuff that we didn't really see.
Right.
And the thing is, kiddies, the ones that may not know this, I saw Star Wars in the theaters. I saw Empire Strikes Back in the theaters. But back then, the theaters would re-show stuff years later. So in 1980, Star Wars was still in the theaters. Yep. In some theaters, it was just that popular. Especially right before Empire came out, they put it out in all the theaters. I think they re-showed Star Wars just to catch everybody back up and stuff like that. So I remember seeing Star Wars in the theater. I couldn't have been more than 3 years old. Yeah. I remember seeing Empire in the theater, but I have ridiculous ability to remember like very early on in life. I remember seeing Flash Gordon, the blue blood, man. That's one thing that just etched it in my mind. In Flash Gordon, that blue blood. That's all it took. But
Flash Gordon occupies this weird space that's kind of adjacent to, but not in the old era sci-fi, right?
Yeah. it's just a thing unto itself, and it's so beautiful. It's so wonderful. I love that movie with all my heart. I love that movie. Some great stuff in there, man. Dino De Laurentiis just brought us so many great movies. Conan and Dune, all these great epics.
Dune, yes.
You know, what can you say? But I don't want to get us off topic. We're trying to stay on a Star Wars topic.
That's fine. It's all good.
Which we had some news Star Wars related. Actually, before we get into the deep Star Wars stuff, because some of it will be in the news, why don't we do the news? Why don't you kick us off first with that Netflix deal?
Netflix. Wow. What to say about Netflix? The big thing in the news right now is that they're getting rid of password sharing.
Yeah.
They want you to log in from whatever device you're using at your home location once every month. This is just another step of kind of micromanaging to ensure profits are safe. It comes along with people wanting to introduce ads into things like Netflix, just securing revenue, and the customers don't like it. Big surprise.
Right. Yeah. Well, they had all that great revenue from COVID. Everybody was stuck at home and needed something to watch on TV, and their revenue went through the roof.
Well, that really bumped them up. But even before COVID, they occupied this special place. Like, you could watch a whole series of Firefly. All of Firefly in one sitting if you want. And it was really where binge watching took place.
Oh yeah,
really with Netflix, because you didn't have ads. You were able to go from one episode to the next, and it brings up kind of the complicated issue of should you binge watch or should you not?
Yes,
because there is something to be said for watching an episode of something, having a week to chew on it, and then seeing what comes next.
And I prefer that latter now. Now that I've had both options. But there are times when it's not good. I think Obi-Wan would have benefited from binge because of the way it was laid out. If it had been able to be watched all in one go, a lot of the haters would have given it a better chance, because you saw that first episode and you're like, what the hell? And then you see the second and you're still like, okay, that's not as bad, but still, what the hell? But then if you just watching it all at one go, man, you realize the vision better, because that week to chew on it, like you say, had people just, oh my God, what is this? What is that? Doing blah, 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 blah. And it just gives people that time to really, especially Star Wars fans, man. I mean,
the worst of fans,
gatekeeper, Uber gatekeeper, they love to knit that pick or pick that knit, whatever. But I'm of the mind now that I think I just prefer it to come out, because it just seems like then what do you got to go on to the next thing? It's like in 1 or 2 days I've knocked this show out, then I'm on to the next show. These companies are already struggling as it is to come up with something worthwhile to watch. They're already rebooting everything else, and if you're trying to expect them to start churning out content for you to have every single day because you're watching it every day, that ain't gonna fly very long.
Yeah, but what you were saying earlier, I do want to hop on there and just basically say they're not having problems; they're embracing. That's why you have remakes of all this stuff. And one thing I wanted to mention, because we will be talking about remakes tonight, it's like automatic revenue. If you do it right, you can charge a AAA price for a game that's been updated that's 10 years, 20 years, whatever old.
Right.
So it's kind of like a mill. You can just kind of churn them out, hire a dev team, have the right people manage it, polish up the original, fix problems, do whatever you got to do, seal it, wrap it, deliver.
Right.
And that kind of plays into just success versus stagnation, right? I've always thought that ADD guys like you and I are great for developing stories in video games, B stories, anything that kind of is not the main vision of something.
Yeah.
Because I feel like a lot of stuff gets lost in that. A perfect example I had to. But there's perfect examples in it everywhere. Basically, people will give you the same tired story, right? Same hero's arc, same whatever.
Mm-hmm.
And you don't have these people coming in there to fill in, like with Star Wars, for example. Great characters. They told stories with sets and scenes and costumes and all this great stuff that you really don't see anymore.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
I don't know. I also wanted to touch on the Netflix thing. They were, to me, kind of the last bastion of the long style media. Peacock has been trying to take off. There have been all these companies trying to get you. Quibi was one a while back.
Mm-hmm.
They want you to watch these very, very short parts.
Yeah.
And put ads in it. And
yeah.
I'm like, really?
Yeah. Everybody's down with these shorties now. That's for Instagram and TikTok, and I guess YouTube wants their little shorts too, because apparently that's supposed to really build your channel as having a little short video. So I'm sure we'll succumb to that too. But one thing I don't mind paying for Netflix, but if you're going to start putting ads in anything, TV, shows or movies, I think you need to offer a free tier, because I've been paying Hulu, I've been paying Peacock, all these companies for years now. Hulu used to have a free tier. When it started out, it was free. And then when they had the pay, they had the pay version and the free version with ads, and then they made the free version with ads pay, and that's just BS, dude. If I got to supplement it, that's
a big rag on me for Hulu.
Yeah,
you want me to pay for this and you want to throw ads on me?
Yeah, that's ridiculous, man. That's like double taxation. You gotta be kidding me. What the hell? And no representation.
And that's unfortunately that's the way it's going to go, because
that's the way they all are, except for Netflix.
It's not the customers making the choices; it's the people piloting the ship.
Yep. Yeah. So I don't know, man. And it's funny because I saw, I think it was a news article or something. Maybe it was on Twitter. I don't know. Somebody saying, "Is there too many streaming services nowadays?" And I was like, this is exactly what I bitched about back when, this is right before, the Star Trek one, CBS All Access came out.
Yeah.
There were very few on the landscape at that time. And that wasn't that long ago. That's how many have just popped up in the last year. HBO Max wasn't around. The Cock wasn't around. Anyway, it was just Hulu, Netflix, and then CBS All Access was about to come out because Discovery was about to come out. And
that was about the time Disney was out, right?
Disney came out not too long after that.
It was right after. Okay.
Yeah, Disney came along after that. So about 6 months to a year, I think. So, I remember telling everybody, because it was going back, well, it's only $4.99 a month. I mean, gosh, the people, because you have the people talking about they'd pirate it. And of course, man, you want to talk about some Star Trek fans getting pissed about that, dude.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, you're taking away their money. If you take away the money, then they won't make Star Trek anymore.
You're going to kill Gene's dream, man.
I'm telling you. So, yeah, you had that end of it. And then, I'm like, look, this is, y'all are just looking right now as you have Hulu and you have Netflix, and now you have CBS All Access. But I can see, we already knew at the time that HBO was coming out, that Disney was coming out. So we already knew those were on the horizon. So I'm like, dude, before you know it, you're going to have all these different streaming services, and then your bills are going to be cumulative high as it was when you had your cable service.
Not sponsored by, but Truebill is a thing, right?
Yeah.
Somebody that helps you manage your freaking subscriptions.
Exactly.
Are you kidding me?
Exactly. Yeah,
the thing is, back at that time, everybody wanted to cut the cord, right? Everybody was sick of cable.
Mm-hmm.
Issues with cable.
They wanted their a la carte.
People might not know these days.
Everybody wanted a la carte, and that's what they missed.
Yep. Well, you either got basic, which was trash.
Very trash.
Maybe one or two things that you wanted. They'd have like an extended package, a couple of things, maybe Cartoon Network, something like that. And then you had like, the these astronomically priced packages that include all of like
BBC America,
HBO, all those. Yeah.
That's where they had me over the barrel every time too with that BBC America, because they would hold out and put it on the last tier. All the good shit's on the last tier, and of course I had to have it. No,
how else are you gonna watch Doctor Who?
Well, that's what torrents are for.
Exactly,
Jesus, man. You can't live without them. I'm sorry. I pay for a lot of stuff. It's actually on Twitter today. Elon laughed about it. I forget what was it about?
About the straw hats?
I don't know. Somebody saying something was good. They were going to get it off torrents or something. It was because of Netflix. Duh, what am I talking about? Because the Netflix deal's like, oh well, back to torrents, kids. So we gotta have to teach them what torrents are. And I said, Gen Z, what is a torrent? Yeah, you better learn, kiddies. It could be your friend. It's still my friend. Has been my whole life.
Oh, well, I mean, the torrents did get a bad name because there are many useful, not piratey things that you can do with torrents.
Yep.
But that's where a majority of it thrives.
Yes,
right?
Star Trek Fleet Commander, it updates via torrents.
Yeah.
Yeah. A lot of people, there are commercial torrents, and a lot of updates.
It's a great way to distribute data and do pushes and whatnot.
Yeah, absolutely, I agree. So that was is that all we wanted on the Netflix news? Have we bitched about that enough?
Well, I think so. We'll probably bitch about it more.
I guess I'm gonna have to start paying for Netflix. My daughter-in-law pays for ours.
I don't know, man. If they really go the ad route.
Oh, hey, can I be honest, dude? We haven't opened Netflix. Let's see, since Stranger Things, probably. That's the only thing. And bro, I can get Stranger Things without Netflix all day long.
Right. Well, that's another thing is like how Netflix kind of cycles things in and out, right? The control of what you can watch is being lost or has never really been there to begin with. But it's just the landscape's completely changed. It's not the wonderland we envisioned for Netflix, right?
No. I mean, they have some great in-house stuff, but some of it's just bought, like Cobra Kai. That was a YouTube show, and they just bought it, and threw some money at it, and made it a longer thing. And it's great. The Witcher, awesome show. We're losing what's his name in that too.
Henry.
Yeah, man. I don't know how I feel about that.
Yeah, I don't either. I have no problems with Henry Cavill. I thought he's done great with pretty much anything he's done. But, he's got such nerd vibes when you see him talk about, nerd stuff.
Yeah.
That I'm kind of like, is he like a closet edgelord?
Maybe. Right? I don't know. To me, he is the Witcher, man. It's going to be hard to top that. All right, so before we do any more Star Wars, let's see. Discord voice is finally coming to PS5. Yep. Woo. For all you PlayStation.
No longer are you going to have to pay for PlayStation Plus if you want to chat with your friends in game.
No doubt, man. And Discord
always a huge deal with PlayStation.
Yeah, let's face it. Discord's become the standard when it comes to game communication, if not all communication. For me, I don't see anything better, and they just keep adding stuff to make it better and better. To me,
look at this.
I don't understand really. To me, Discord is the future of social media. I don't think Facebook has it when it when it's all said and done. This is where we're all going to end up staying.
Well, they've even got a leg up on Twitter, right? In my opinion.
Oh yes, absolutely.
It's live and it's interactive, and the shit you can do with it, stuff. Sorry, it's all.
We're way past our 5-minute thing.
Yeah, well.
But yeah, I mean, if they figure out a way to I guess maybe intertwine it more where you can have more broadcasting between servers, I guess is what I'm trying to say, between people's servers. That's gonna revolutionize things. That's when it becomes Facebook, basically.
I'd be surprised if that wasn't on the horizon.
I'm sure it is. But as long as they keep their core values, then we're A-okay. Because I'm on board with what they're doing. But yeah, you go ahead.
I was just going to say, forever, Discord has been the place for gamers to come together.
Yep.
Right?
Yeah. I tried a lot of different ones in the beginning, like Band and
Ventrilo.
Yeah, there was a bunch of different ones, but Discord was one I called early on. I actually started real early on with it, then left it because it was so new. But they got their shit together real quick. And I mean, it just became the place to go. So I know you guys are going to be excited about that, this PlayStation owners. It's in beta right now. But Discord betas are really tight. I don't think you'll have too many issues with it, hopefully. But that'll give you all a chance to finally enjoy some Discord you get everywhere else, basically.
Well, I mean, it goes back to what I was saying a second ago. That was always a big thing with PlayStation gaming. Back in the day, there was always this thing of like, well, do I want this console for these games? Do I want this console to play with my friends? Do I want this console for, crispy graphics? It was all a choice.
Yep.
And everybody's kind of inching closer to the idea of there are still issues with exclusive games, but to let people communicate.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I was always so annoyed that I had to pay for PlayStation Plus every month if I wanted to get into Destiny or something like that.
Yeah.
Live chat with my friends.
You're gonna start me on a rant for sure, there, buddy. Because that's one reason one's the exclusivity, which is gotten less and less over the years, but even Sony's starting to do more of it. But just to me, one thing Microsoft hit right out of the ballpark was Xbox Live. They had that right, the idea from the get-go. They were smart to do it. And they even had their silver program back then, so you could still get on, albeit pretty basic, but you could still get on. In PlayStation, dude, I've just never. Do you know that I don't know that I've ever played PlayStation online. Because it's just, my dad has his PS4 and it is connected, and I have played Gran Turismo a little bit, but as far as knowing there's a internet behind that box, I don't feel it ever. Right. When I'm in, maybe more nowadays, but back when it first came out and stuff, PS3 and stuff like that, I never felt it. Yeah, I've always felt it with Xbox. Yeah,
I would say with Xbox Live. I think without that support structure in place, Titanfall would not have been such a big deal with them.
Exactly.
Right? And that was going back to exclusivity. That was their exclusive title. It was a big deal. But yeah, without Xbox Live to support it, it would have been total trash.
Yeah. Yeah. So anyway, we don't want to dwell on too long with that. We got to get through this news. We're going to actually get to some Star Wars stuff. There is Star Wars stuff in the news. I'm just trying to get through the other stuff. This one's just a quick update for those that are watching for the Sons of the Forest, the sequel to the Forest deal. It's an open world game. It's still coming out February 23rd, but it's coming out early access. So, yeah, they apparently had a lot of delays, and it's just one of those things they're doing to hopefully... it's stupid. You're going to be a beta tester for them is what you're going to do, right? Pretty much. But I guess it's fine if you want to play a game, but I don't know about paying to be a beta tester. And I know you have feelings on that too.
Well, I definitely have feelings on it because I was on board with the Baldur's Gate,
3
early access, which is still not out, and I'm kind of wondering if that's going to continue to be a thing as it's been presented in those two formats.
I kind of think it's never coming out.
Yeah. Well, I mean, people always say, never buy early access, never pre-order. You know? It's all these issues that gaming companies deal with as the game is getting ready to come out that nobody wants to deal with.
But you told me that is a working game, right? Like, it works. They've put DLC out for it and everything, correct? Or no?
It's not complete. I mean, I think max level has gone up some. I think they said max level is supposed to be somewhere between like 10 and maybe 15, somewhere in that range.
I see.
but you still can't get up to max level. There's still a lot of maps that aren't out, a lot of classes missing.
And you paid how much for that game?
Full price, man. It was like 50, 60, something.
See,
like that.
man, I mean, what? And you're soured on it, bro, because I was about ready to, because I didn't even know it was out like that. I just told, I was like, have you guys heard that there's Baldur's Gate 3? And of course, y'all are all laughing at me because y'all have been playing the early access. I mean, and it's been out for a long time, hasn't it?
It has. It's been at least 2 years. Well, 2 years may be a stretch, but more than a year.
Yeah, I mean, that's no way to be, man. That's supposed to be a big company too.
And that was kind of a big trigger for a lot of people who say don't pre-order games, don't do early access.
Yeah.
Because they did have a lot of nightmares when it first came out early access too. There were a lot of bugs, a lot of things that needed to be fixed.
Yeah, it's not for the general public to be your beta testers. I'm sorry, it's just not. There's a specific type of person that you want beta testing.
Let's talk about how it's normally done in the past, right?
Yeah, go ahead.
In the past, you develop a game, you'd have your in-studio devs test it, testers test it. You'd maybe do a focus group of some sort of gamers to come in and test it, right?
Mm-hmm.
And then, what did you do? Alpha test, right?
Yep.
Work out all the kinks you can. Limited amount of people testing it, but it was kind of opened up over the internet or whatnot.
Maybe some of the media might get access to some of these alphas. Yeah.
And then came the beta test. And beta test is really where you're supposed to iron out all the bugs that are in the game.
And that
it's kind of a soft open for the general public.
But you still don't want your regular general public in there. You really want your uber nerds in the betas.
And the big thing is to actually, the beta testers have to engage with devs. You run into a problem, you have to record all kind of stuff about it, all kind of details about what you did before, after, everything. You're trying to get them all the information you can to make sure that they can repeat the bug and find the problem.
Yep.
You're not there to get to max level before the game releases.
Exactly. Man. Yeah. So anyway, moving on real quick. Monday, big day for me. Hogwarts Legacy pre-release. So if you bought the digital deluxe edition, you'll be able to play it on Monday, I believe at midnight. So it'll actually end up being Tuesday, really, but whatever. Yeah, so I'm really looking forward to that. It actually really launches on the 10th. So I think that's, Thursday? Something like that? Wednesday?
I don't have my calendar in front of me. I couldn't tell you.
People can use their own calendars.
It's
it'll be
the 4th,
on the 10th.
so 6 days, it'll be Friday.
Yeah. There it is.
As far as Hogwarts, I really don't have a lot of feelings or anything to say on it. The best I can tell, most people are Potterverse fans that are into it, right?
Yeah.
It's
and it may be more than that because it's having a ridiculous, good pre-sale. So, we'll wait and see when it actually launches to see how well it does after that. But obviously there are a shit ton of Harry Potter fans in the world,
right?
And there's a lot of Harry Potter fans yet to come. These young kids probably still haven't even discovered it because they missed the movies. Believe it or not. That's kind of weird.
I don't know. I mean, I'm one of the few people that have not read the books, just seen the movies, right?
Right.
And there's probably a lot of people out there like me, but all the hardcore fans, they read the books, right?
Yeah. Well, I'm guilty of that. I told you about my reading deal with that.
Right.
But yeah, it takes place in the late 1800s. Dumbledore would have been about 10, and he is like somewhere in this game as a kid apparently. But none of the familiar stuff other than the castle, like the Whomping Willow and the Shrieking Shack aren't in it because they weren't around yet and stuff like that. Moaning Myrtle's not in it. She wasn't dead yet. Stuff like that. But it still just looks like an amazing open world game, and I am just all in because Harry Potter games have been really lackluster. And I guess I'm a big enough Harry Potter fan to care, because the only game I ever liked, and it was still stupid easy, was Quidditch World Cup, where you could actually play Quidditch, and that was kind of fun, but it was pretty easy from what I remember.
Doesn't sound like there was a whole lot of the Potterverse included in it either, right?
No, it was early days. That was before Wizarding World was even a thing. Right. Before they had that massive universe like that she owns. So that gets us pretty much out of the news. Other than now we're getting Star Wars. Jedi Survivor has been pushed back. They were,
Surprise.
I'm not sure when it was, if they said when it was exactly supposed to come out, but whatever that was.
Early March, I think.
Yeah, I think it's
like 7th or something like that.
I think it's June now, and I meant to look that up to be sure, but y'all can double check.
I don't know. I thought I saw something about April.
Maybe you can double check that while I look and see. That is. Also, last thing in the news: Final Fantasy VII had a 26th anniversary in Japan. That's the Japan anniversary, not the U.S. launch. Okay, but Japan made it an official holiday from now on, which is kind of neat for them. Final Fantasy VII, for those that don't know. Okay, go ahead.
Jedi Survivor, April 28th.
April 28th. Okay, so not too far pushed back.
Yeah.
Final Fantasy VII was probably one of the biggest games. And first of all, it was a PlayStation 1 game.
I got so much to say about it.
Yeah, the PlayStation 1 was just a huge thing for us when it came out. Huge deal. And we all got to hearing about this Final Fantasy VII game early on because Japan got everything a year before we did. Sometimes more than that. Sometimes a couple years before we did. And so it was known what it kind of looked like and whatever, and everybody was just so excited about it. And when it came out, it did not disappoint. It was it was just the coolest Final Fantasy at that time. It was just epic.
Consoles across the world left on.
Oh
night,
God,
right?
yeah, left on all night. Yeah. Say it. Preach, man. Go ahead.
Well, I got to bring up my notes, but yeah, so many hours spent running around forest trying to find mobs to kill to level up my materia.
Yep.
Right?
Yep.
Different. I don't know. That was kind of one of the earlier instances I remember of farming in
sure.
semi-open world.
Oh yeah.
Game, right?
Yeah. No, definitely farming.
But yeah, it was all about getting the right materia, the right mix of materia, things to put the materia in.
Mm-hmm. The right chocobos. Materia.
Oh yeah, chocobos. Sid, always.
Yep.
Somewhere in the mix. I will say, as far as that being made an anniversary, it's Japan. There are thrash metal Pikachus and shit like that all over.
Yeah.
They have a mascot for basically anything you can imagine. So it's not surprising, but it is a little fun. Yeah,
I'll say too that it also gave Square basically their look. That was the first in what became a stylized look for much of the Final Fantasy series going forward.
It wasn't just their look; it was kind of like Square's. I don't know. It's like the way the gameplay worked out. I don't know the exact word I'm looking for here.
Well, the whole mechanics changed, and they just built on that each one. And some suffered when others got better. That's one thing about Square. They play between each instance of Final Fantasy. There is so much play, especially 12. 12 is one of the wildest Final Fantasies you'll ever play. And one of my favorites, by the way, because it's so different.
I actually like 10 just because of the huge...
Oh, 10's great.
It was 10, right? The one with the huge...
Yeah, the huge, trees. Arena or whatever. The giant arena at the beginning.
No, the trees where you develop your character.
Oh, yeah. Right? Yeah. It carries over like that 10-2 as well.
Right.
Yeah. My wife's favorite, 10 and 10-2. She's a big Final Fantasy geek. And that goes back to you talking about the exclusive, too. Now, here's the weirdest thing. She wants like hell to play Final Fantasy VII Remake. Well... It's just a PlayStation exclusive. But they have a Final Fantasy VIII remake on Xbox.
Okay.
Why? Because nobody cares about Final Fantasy VIII. Everybody cares about Final Fantasy VII, except my wife, who really likes all the Final Fantasy series. There are people who care.
I was going to say,
I know I'm digging a big hole. There are people who care, but they are the hardcore Final Fantasy people. I mean,
right.
Most people are going to play 7, 10, 12. They might play 10 too.
Yeah.
But that's about it. They're going to skip 8 and 9 more than likely.
Most likely, yeah.
Because let me tell you this, living through it back in the day, 7 was so huge, I didn't even know 8 came out. And then 9 was out. I had no idea.
Totally missed 8 as well.
Yeah. It had no hype to it. I don't know what happened there. Maybe it was just, and I can't go back and say what was going on at the time with other consoles and what.
Honestly, I think it was a US Japan thing.
Oh yeah.
Considering the time frame.
Could have been a Super Mario 2 deal or something, right? Where it's one game here and another game there.
All right. No, I was thinking more along the lines of our relations.
Right, yeah.
Government. And
could be. So,
I did want to go back to the remake you were talking about. I don't know about you personally. I was very dispassionate about that. I did like Advent Children because, Vince Cloud. Those guys, a little bit of expansion on their story was great.
Sure,
it was breathed some new life into it.
Yeah.
Whereas the remakes, to me, it kind of missed all the marks.
I haven't seen it, so I couldn't even say. Hopefully, she's going to borrow my dad's PS4 and play it. We'll see. I'll let you know.
I know what you think, man. I want your input on it.
I definitely will, because I'm hoping I'll get to play it a little bit too. Well, that pretty much.
We need to talk about the characters in Final Fantasy VII, right? We didn't mention Sephiroth.
They have some great characters, man.
They did.
Cloud.
Cloud, Red X, or Red 13, whatever his name was.
To me, it was like the birth
Barrett,
of the giant swords.
Yeah. But Barrett with a gun arm.
Mm-hmm.
Tifa, Yuffie.
And see, I don't even remember all their names but Cloud because I renamed them all. My dumbass gave them all different names, so I didn't learn their names except Cloud's, obviously.
I always have a problem remembering the one chick that was different from everybody else. Everybody else was kind of hard ass, right?
I remember one in a kimono.
Backstory. But there was one. She was the healer. She was at a temple.
She was the one in a kimono?
I guess.
I don't know. There was one in a kimono kind of deal. Maybe I think. I might be thinking of another one.
Anyway, I always want to call her Ariel. I'm pretty sure it starts with an A.
Yeah.
But yeah, she was so different from everybody else because, she was soft-spoken, reserved.
I think that is the one with
bad backstory.
Yeah.
Not bad in like it wasn't good, but,
not good
tragic
for her.
Or whatever.
Yeah,
yeah, right. But she was such a different character to everybody else in that world.
Yeah.
And it was kind of interesting to see that, where as opposed to having like all these normal people, the badass comes in and does all the work, whereas everybody else is shit, and here's this one person trying to save the world.
Right. All righty. Well, that covers all the news. So we can actually get into some Star Wars now. Boy, we really planted that seed and left it hanging for a while.
We did, for a minute.
Yeah.
Well, you already mentioned Survivor's been pushed back. I did want to expand on that a little bit.
Yeah, sure. Go ahead.
So for those of you who don't know, Survivor is the continuation of Fallen Order, the story of Cal Kestis. We are going to talk about something else, and maybe I'll save this part for then. Fallen Order was a fun game. I'm glad I didn't pay more than $5 for it.
Yeah. I'm just starting it. Well, I'm a little ways into it, and so far so good, but it's already starting to get on my nerves as far as I don't know how much longer I can keep up with it. And yeah, I didn't pay for it other than my Game Pass. Right.
Well, it's unfortunately it falls victim to a mechanic a lot of us don't like in games, which is power lock. You have to get up to this certain point in the game, and guess what? You can double jump, right? But it's way late in the game. So then you're going back to all these other worlds, find all these double jump spots that you missed or other force abilities or whatever. And that's kind of upsetting, and
Yeah.
it does break the immersion for me a little. But it was still fun. I did feel like they missed out on a lot of stuff. You could do a lot of customization to your lightsaber, but it's not really something you really saw unless you were customizing your lightsaber, right?
Yeah, and
you
I
may
mean,
see the color,
and you're forced along a way too. Whereas with Survivor, it's open world,
right?
and I don't imagine you're forced along a way, which is why I like open world. I mean, to me, and I mean true open world in the sense that I mean Grand Theft Auto Cyberpunk open world. That's what I mean. I want to be able to, like, when you leave Cyberpunk's main city, you can drive out and real freaking far and go and explore. And I love that. And that's what I mean. Yeah, I think sometimes open world gets used a little too loosely at times.
One of the big problems that are in a lot of open world games is always the same situation. Either A, you wander out and you find a zone that you're not leveled for.
Mm-hmm.
And for some of us, that's a trigger. It's like, okay, I can work my way around this and see what's out here.
Right.
For others, they'll turn back. It can be a time sink. But the other thing that you run into is just totally missing quest lines. And to me, that's an even bigger deal. It's like, you're following this linear path, and unless you're like, I want to experience everything this game has to offer, you're missing all this stuff along the way.
Right. Well, that's one thing I think Fable did well early on with its golden trail.
Yeah.
So, like, you have your open world, but you have this system to where you're managing your tasks or quests. Yes, thank you. And then if you just decide you want to go explore, you go explore. And when you want to get back to the quest you're on, you click it, boom, your little thing, get you back on your path, wherever you need to go. I like that kind of deal. If I need that, I don't want to be forced along a route.
It is really great to be able to. I think Fable did it, where you can switch whatever quest you're on, and you'll get little indicators that will go in the different directions or whatnot.
Yeah,
which is something we didn't have way back in the day.
Yeah.
If you were lucky enough, maybe you had a map of the world, or
at
something
best
that came along with the game. But yeah, you were just flying blind, dude.
That's like playing games with Brian and I, thinking like old D&D game stuff we used to play. Me and him a lot was what were those little Dungeons and Dragons games we used to play? But they were Baldur's Gates. But they were spin-offs of Baldur's Gate.
Well, there were actually a lot of D&D games before that.
But these were on console. We were playing them on. I can't think of the name of them, but anyway, but they were part of that Baldur's Gate. No, not Baldur's Gate. Anyway,
well, I'm thinking like Baldur's Gate, Pools of Radiance. There's all kinds of D&D games that were not the old 8-bit style that I was talking about.
These were on the. Let's see, I was playing that one on the PS2 and the Xbox One, the original Xbox. I mean, but anyway, Brian and I will like search a whole room, top to bottom before we move on. So if you're waiting, if you're wanting to keep going on and explore on your own, you better go off on your own, because we're going to be lagging behind, making sure we touch everything.
Were horrible. Pixel hunting, right? That was the thing we used to do.
Yeah.
You'd hunt every single pixel and see if one of them lit up. And sometimes you'd find that one pixel.
Yep.
What the hell is this?
Right. Yeah. You're always looking for some kind of anomaly or something that might give away a secret passage or something. Smashing everything you can to see if there's something hidden in it.
Exploring boundaries, seeing if you could break something or walk through a wall or whatever.
Yeah. So in today's open world, to allow me to just go wherever, and then that to me is more fun than anything. In fact, you don't even necessarily have to have a story for me to play in Grand Theft Auto. I can just go and just do, and be same with Cyberpunk. I don't think I've been on the story for a hot minute. I've been, just trying to get myself together, going and checking out some areas. You can get lost in that world. That was
Yeah,
another
I
one.
highly suggest modding Cyberpunk personally. I played the game. It kind of fell off for me once I started getting towards the end point. And used to be you could activate your forensic hop and get some crazy movement. They took that out of the game, so that's a big thing to mod. There's a mod for flying cars, which is like, why would you not have flying cars in Cyberpunk?
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah, because they have that one.
Like that.
They have that one where you come in. They come in and attack you in that flying thing. That blue. It's like a police deal or whatever.
Right.
Yeah.
But,
they're there.
There was something specific I just lost my train of thought on concerning that. One thing about Cyberpunk, it had a lot of interesting stories, a lot of concise stories and little data shards, and a lot of good stories. Like, you get these snapshots of conversations that would inform what went on around.
Right.
And I thought that was really great. I also kind of feel like the storytelling in Cyberpunk steals a lot from Eldritch Horror. It's all these insurmountable odds that are not you can't work around, right?
Right.
It doesn't work that way. It's like, this is how it is and you got to deal with it.
Yes.
And I think that's great to see in any type of fantasy game or whatever.
Yeah, this Cyberpunk, man, it started off with such a bad rap because of all the shit going on with it at the beginning, but I plowed through it. I still played it the first month like crazy. And I've got to get back to it. Lord, Brain, I always say, Blunt Brain, please let me get back to what I want to do. Please.
Also, another big mod that I installed on Cyberpunk, I always hated the fact that it was like, you can either pick your Cyber deck or your Sandevistan or Berserker. It's so annoying because, why would you not pick your Cyber deck? Because you can scan and pick up all these things, do things remotely.
Right.
Well, there's a mod that allows you to do two, which is what I want out of the game.
Yeah.
I don't want to run without a Sandevistan. I don't want to run without an operating system.
Yeah, you should be allowed to. And that's what. Yeah. I like when people can mod and they allow modding and stuff like that, so you can really create an RPG. Really, for some, you get a bunch of players. If it's got a multiplayer aspect to it, you can really get crazy with it and have your friends. Huh? Yeah, you can have some good times. While we're on the subject of Cyberpunk, Phantom Liberty, man, I saw some video of that today. I'm looking forward to that. I just found out about it, so I can't wait.
So I've reviewed some of the media for Phantom Liberty, not all of it, obviously. It seems like a bunch of atmospheric storytelling is all we're getting so far, right?
Yeah.
Not a lot of details on what the expansion is, where it takes place, how it fits into the game, or just even what you're doing, what's added.
See, they'd be so perfect.
We know Idris Elba is added to the cast,
cool.
Right?
Cool.
But that's about it.
Well, it's so perfect for somebody like me because they'll put this out. And, of course, you've played the game, obviously, much further. I guess you finished it. Whereas I have not. So they can put whatever out, and I'll just be happy, I mean, it could be light on content or whatever, and I'll just be thrilled to bits because I haven't even gotten there yet. So they would love people.
Well, there is a lot to do in the vanilla game too.
Yeah.
I mean, you could spend. I think it would be easy for somebody who games 2 to 4 hours a day to spend a full week in just one section.
Sure.
Night City.
Yeah, that's why, I mean, it's so distracting for me because I'm like, okay, yeah, I need to actually do something in this game. I'm actually living right now. I'm walking around doing my thing, checking out this, that, and the other thing. Oh yeah, there's a game I'm supposed to be playing right now. But yeah, so it was on my list. I've got a list, if we get to it later, some of the open world games of 2023 and 2024 that I'm looking forward to, and that was on there. And I already mentioned Fable. Whatever they're going to call it. Yeah, I think
this is probably a good point to get back to.
Yeah.
Star Wars.
Yes, we got to stick with Star Wars. Stay on track. Stay on target. Stay on target.
I can't hold it. No. So, wow, what to say about Star Wars? Well, I mean, the fanboys, the diehards, all that stuff about how unforgiving the fan base can be. For me, I know a lot of people were like, how did Book of Boba Fett become The Mandalorian Part 2? Or, some crap
2.5.
like that. Yeah.
Yeah.
When, for me, I actually, when in some of the first few scenes of the Book of Boba Fett, I had to actually pause it and compose myself. And, quit laughing, wipe the tears from my eyes, and settle back in. Because I'm a not huge Patton Oswalt fan. I'm not a huge Parks and Rec fan. But one thing they did great that I love to see in any type of media is they took an idea from somewhere else and was like, here, we'll throw you this little bone.
Yeah.
And so for those of you who don't know, most people should know this, Parks and Rec was a show, had a great cast, with a lot of great stuff. I was actually talking about this yesterday. I mean, like, Aubrey Plaza was just on point in Legion. Chris Pratt gave us endearing Star-Lord. Nick Offerman's getting a lot of praise right now for The Last of Us.
Yep.
Star-studded cast. But Patton Oswalt, in one of the episodes, did what's called the Star Wars filibuster. And so he got up there and basically started talking about his fanfic. And he's like, the scene opens on a Sarlacc pit in the deserts of Tatooine. A hand comes out of the sand, and it was shot for shot, man. Just like
he said it, huh?
Yeah, and it was great.
That's awesome.
I
was totally lost on me, man, because I just haven't watched Park and Rec. Maybe an episode or two. It's like The Office in a park and recreation building to me.
You don't have to watch Parks and Rec. You can actually just search, Star Wars filibuster.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. It'll come up. I have to check that one out for sure.
But I thought that was a great move by, I guess it was Filoni's idea.
More than likely. He probably watches more television than Favreau, I would think.
Well, also, they kind of seem to be from two different camps, right? Because Favreau has this love of, things that are unique to him. Filoni feels a lot more like your fanboy. Like he's into ideas of camp and, community creatives or whatever. And I think that I love that.
Well, one thing I love that they're both seem to be on board with is taking all the stuff that got chunked into Legends and making it canon again. I love that.
Right.
Because there is some great Legend stuff in there. And you bring up Book of Boba Fett. And it's a great example. That scene, the Sarlacc pit scene, is a Legend scene. We've known about it for a long time. That he survived. I believe it was from a comic book, if I'm not mistaken. Or is it from the book? I know there was a book about Boba Fett. Is it from that book?
I'm pretty sure it was Legends. And because Legends is kind of where they took off from something else we need to mention. Another remake, Coder. Coder kind of took over the comic books for a while, right? Knights of the Old Republic.
Yeah.
And then they kind of broke off from that and went into Legends.
Yeah, so it's really cool that they brought a lot of that Legend stuff back into canon.
They are planning to do a Coder remake.
Yes, that is on the list. It sure is. The Knights of the Old Republic remake, which I am just ecstatic about, is the Harry Potter game for sure.
I'm a big fan of this because, me, I'm a big D&D head, and a lot of that comes from
the D20
in the future be known as SRDs.
Yeah.
From 3.0 of D&D, they had a Star Wars game.
Yeah.
This was when it was WotC, before the Mike Merles era and all that.
It was called the D20 system then. I don't know if it still is. Is that what they call it?
It's so split up now. SRD kind of determines, to me, it was the idea of kind of not Creative Commons like they did with the OGL, but like kind of the precursor to that.
Whatever when 3.0 came out, it was just called D20. It was their D20 system or whatever, and Knights of the Old Republic's based off of 3.0 rules.
Yeah, and they really opened up the tabletop to a lot more stuff like Star Wars or Cthulhu, or whatever the case.
Sure.
May be, to other worlds.
Yeah. I made it was, of course, it wasn't perfect, and they improved on it, but it made it a lot easier to kind of for most people to kind of get into. Yeah, that's a huge remake. I just absolutely can't wait for it. Just because I can't even imagine like what it's going to look like. I have played that game so much, and I actually like 2 better than 1. And we're talking about 2 different companies, and it's actually interesting you bring them up because one of the other games on that list of mine was Avowed, which is an open world game that's coming out, and Obsidian Entertainment is who is making that, and Obsidian is who made the original Baldur's Gate. Mm-hmm. And a very damn good company. I know because I wore their T-shirt forever. I loved that shirt.
Well, I mean, Obsidian was just one of those companies that really did a lot of stuff right in a lot of areas, but did some bad things here and there.
Yeah. Well, BioWare was a part of all that too.
Right.
Yeah.
Anytime either one of those, in my opinion, put out a game, I'm like, eyes on.
Right.
Figure out what's going on.
Yeah, yeah. Well, I mean, generally it's going to be good if it's got those names on it. But there's also times when they trip over their own, hype too.
Can we talk about something since we bought up Fallen Order and Coder at this point?
Sure.
God. How great was Futurama? They got it on point. Everybody's got freaking amnesia, right? That's one thing about these games. I liked it a lot in Fallen Order. I felt like they did it the right way. It was a separation of Cal from the Force during the Great Extermination or whatever, Order 66. And it was so much different than just like, you've got amnesia. And I thought that was a great addition to the game. I hope I think they did that with Sith Lords, right? Where it was less amnesia and more like you were remembering more from the past or something, learning more about the Force. Anyways, as far as I remember, it was Coder, Sith Lords, Coder 2, and then 3 got canceled, right? If I recall correctly.
Yeah, 3 got canceled. God, that was a disappointing day.
Yeah.
Man, I was so bummed out when I heard that. Probably for the best, though. Maybe.
It's kind of one of those things that I did want to talk about in gaming in general. This idea of not getting early access, not pre-ordering. The issue of the environment in gaming companies, right? Because for the longest time, everybody knows you've got a crunch time.
Mm-hmm.
As you near to release, people are like, you got to be here in the office 24/7 until we
everybody's
push it
sleeping
out.
there. Yep.
Right. And that causes a lot of burnout, in my opinion. And in my opinion, it also allows a lot of subpar stuff to slip through the cracks.
Mm-hmm. Sure does. And these big companies suffer from it the worst. Even though they have these thousands of people working for them, they push the hardest.
So companies I wanted to mention, EA, WB, who was the other one? Activision.
Oh, Activision.
EA, Activision, and WB.
Yeah, the big ones.
So, it like we were saying about the remakes, it's really easy to, you have the IP rights to this game, repackage it, sell it at AAA price.
Yeah.
And I don't think there's necessarily anything wrong with that if it allows us to enjoy a game. Like, I don't want to play Evil Within 1 because I know that graphically it's not going to please me. Yeah. There's some elements of it that are like, yeah, that works with the gritty style of a detective horror survival story.
Oh, yeah, I'm with you on that one 100%, man. It's got to be, we're spoiled. Yeah, it's got to be graphically appealing to me. I don't care how much I loved it back in the day. It's going to be really hard for me to play it without those, more modern. And I was just thinking, let's say it didn't even have the modern graphics, it's just be updated to, fit the wider screens and, the formatting and stuff like that. But yeah, I mean, if it's a big game like KOTOR, I think it's okay to do it. Like Final Fantasy 7, 8. I don't know why they remade 8, but whatever. Okay.
Let's be ADD again, because we've got to go off on this tangent. Speaking of remakes, Dead Space.
Dead Space. Yeah, you've been wanting to talk about this one. The
dude,
the sound.
They did so much right with that.
I can't even remember the original one.
I do slightly, and it was survival horror done right.
Yeah.
And just looking at the graphics from there to now, it just didn't stand up. But in the new game, the graphics were beautiful. The story was expanded. They gave you a big lore dump.
Yeah.
There's apparently a secret ending in the New Game Plus version of it. But a couple of things. It can be really hard in those types of games in space to balance the void of space with emptiness on your screen, right?
Mm-hmm.
That's one thing that I didn't like about it was there's not much to see outside of the ship.
Right.
And that makes sense because of space and all that.
Yeah.
But at the same time, when you've got so much of space you can see, you got to put something there.
Throw a nebula out there or something.
Yeah, well, not even that. Just, throw some crap coming outside of the ship, right?
Yeah, okay.
Some kind of an interesting story that happened somewhere where a bulkhead blew.
Right.
And a lot of that was missing.
Yeah.
But, again, I understand it. They're working with the void of space. They're trying to get the atmospherics right. I can forgive them for that. It's just a tiny nitpick I have.
Yeah.
But the big thing that I wanted to talk about was the audio in this. Everybody loves the audio. It's so great because they put a lot of effort into it. There's nothing worse than playing a game and hearing an NPC sigh over your shoulder or something and thinking it's an enemy, right?
Yeah.
Or like tracking an enemy and then you hear them over here, but they're actually over there. And one thing that they did that was great is like, if you're in a corridor that goes around corners and whatnot, if there's a creature here, and then there's a corridor, and then a corridor, and then a corridor, and you're standing here, you're not going to hear it from over here. You're going to hear it from over here.
Mm-hmm.
And that was, they put a lot of effort into that, you could tell, and it's super rewarding for audiophiles. It's just great having that attention to sound that really immerses me in a game personally.
Yeah, I mean, that to me, it makes all. I'm I've got a surround sound system in this tiny little room just because I want to experience 3D audio as much as I can. And of course, these things don't get it as good as, some of the stuff they've come out with just for software spatialization, in your headphones. It's amazing what they can do. I saw that
I will say
back in the 90s at Disney MGM Studios and thought it was the greatest thing ever. It was it was blows my mind, man, how it works.
I did want to mention a couple other things about Dead Space. We were talking about segueing that, so we'll backtrack a little bit. But I did want to make a point that there are going to be challenges to making Dead Space 2 if they do a remake of it well. There were a lot of puzzles that were kind of transported into the one remake. The story is not going to make a lot of sense if they don't redo it.
Yeah.
So if they do, just be aware that I'm sure they know about these things. They're going to address them.
And that remake just came out this week, didn't it?
Last week.
Last week, okay.
Actually, that may have been early access. So
okay.
Yeah. I will say they had this one great idea of the cinematic one shot being throughout the game, and that was really great. And for the most part, they hit it. But there is the idea of it being interrupted by what I assume is including load times of travel, whether you're in an elevator, whether you're on one of the tube systems, things to hide behind there. But at the same time, in a survival horror type game like this, those things are great because you get a chance to breathe, to center yourself, to not be scared out of your wits the whole entire time.
Yeah.
And of course, they're going to flip it on, right? They're going to throw something somewhere in there. Either something's going to drop out of the elevator, you'll hear some weird sounds as you're traveling down a tube and expect to be ambushed. So it's really a great thing to add in, but it is also kind of hiding some things that I think maybe the devs didn't get where they wanted to.
Yeah.
But that's it. What we were talking about, though,
Audio
files.
Oh, audio files, yeah. And then
the segue.
Yeah. Oh God. Yeah. You did say. Thank you for that segue, by the way.
Yeah.
I could have utilized it a little better than I just did. Man, audio files, and when I was talking about, I have surround sound in this room, but in my wife's room for Christmas, I decided that I wanted her to have better sound because she can't hear very well, and hopefully we'll get that fixed soon. But in the meantime, I just wanted her to have a better sound system than the speakers in a TV. So I just wanted to get her a little sound bar. And, I looked on Amazon, did my research, and thought, well, okay, I guess I'll go with this one. It's not too expensive. Seems like people like it, blah, blah. I get it, hook it up. Seems like it's working great. Then I decide I want to watch something that I've got on my Plex library. Well, it's in 5.1. It might even be AC3 Dolby. I don't think it's AAC, but and it didn't even matter because it's just 5.1.
Yeah.
Made this thing just where it didn't even play that. And I'm like, okay. So, I did some checking online, and I don't think I found anything right away. So I was like, okay, well, other stuff plays. So I was, checking stuff out, and I finally realized that this thing, when it's all said and done, would only play a 2.0 audio channel that only was encoded in AAC audio.
Right.
Most of the streaming services, that's no problem. And I was like, okay, well, I'll just, all this stuff that I have, I'll re-encode it, and make it to where it'll work on her thing. Didn't want to do that, but that was what I'd do, fuck it.
Right.
So we end up finally trying to go into HBO Max one night and watch a movie, and lo and behold, it won't play the sound. And I'm like, well, that's it. I'm done. That was all I needed. I went immediately to Amazon. I had the box still. Yeah, it's done. This thing's going back. So, and I had emailed their people too. I was like, hey, here's my issue. What's the deal? Oh, yeah, you're right. Our chipset doesn't support. It only supports AAC 2.0. Well, duh. I already know that. I said, well, okay, so this model doesn't support it. Do you have any models that do support it? Nope, all the same chipset. Every single model they have has the exact same chipset in it. So I was like, okay, well, I'll be getting another one then. Turns out, finally I thought about it, and I'm like, so the only way I really can guarantee that I know that this is going to work for what I need it to do is to, one, probably buy one with a subwoofer. So it's going to be forced to do a 0.1 channel. And in that case, it's going to have to be able to at least, mux it down or something, convert it over. Hopefully something. Yeah. The second thing was see if there's a Dolby logo somewhere in any of the descriptions. So, to see that they actually ponied up for their Dolby license that everybody has to pay for. Mm-hmm. So it's not just going to support just AAC. And then you should be good. Well, it turns out I found a Vizio one like that, and it does exactly what I need it to do. She's got great bass now that she didn't have before. And
freaking Vizio, man.
I love Vizio, dude. First of all,
they make some amazing products for
They do. They make just about, I don't know if they still are this this big of a manufacturer. But back when Vizio first came out as little TVs, just about every screen you were buying in a TV was made by them,
right?
Except for like maybe the biggest manufacturers, but every other no-name brand screen you ever heard of, they were making it.
That's actually kind of a layover from the old days, right? Where, like, for example, Lucky Gold Star built a lot of crap that went into a lot of other people's crap.
Right, yeah. And the thing is, they were probably just making screens for the longest time and said, well, hey, we can just throw a bezel around this thing and make our own little TV. And they really brought the price down. I think if it wasn't for Vizio, the TVs would still be a ridiculous price. They wouldn't be as high still, but they wouldn't be as cheap as they are now because they just churned out these great cheap panels. Yeah.
I had a 36-inch from them that I paid less than $200 for, while people were just getting into 4K. This is only 1080.
Right.
But, I mean, at that point, most of the 36s you would see were around $300 and $400.
Mm-hmm.
And God, I love that thing. It got taken out by a lightning strike when I was without grounded electricity. Basically,
yeah, it sucks.
But yeah, I love that little TV. It was super portable. Take it anywhere. Durable. Screen quality was great for what I was using for. I don't think it would hold up for like maybe a FPS or something like that.
Yeah,
it had the super short latency on it.
Yeah.
Otherwise, though, man, that thing was great.
Yeah, you really couldn't beat a Vizio TV especially for the price. But anyway, I mean, be careful what you're looking for and what suits your needs, man. Because oh God, I'm just trying to get a decent, inexpensive thing. I had to pony up an extra $50 to get into this area. So really, when it comes to sound bars, you really don't need to spend less than about $120, in my opinion. I mean, honestly, just spend the money, spend at least $150 on it or something, because you'll get one that might work for you. Because if you're not using Plex and you don't use HBO Max, you might be fine. But I just can't accept that, because in my opinion, that one I had before the first one was a totally useless piece of garbage.
Right.
It may work sometimes, but it doesn't work all the time. And it should have worked with every streaming service.
Yeah.
If it had worked with every streaming service, it would still be in this house probably. That was a major faux pas, I thought. Anyway.
No, I completely agree.
Yeah, that's my big rant, which I didn't even rant as hard as I really wanted to, because I was really mad about that. But
well, no, I will say, like, that's a common thing in electronics in general, which is why I have such praise for Vizio, because at the time nobody knew who they were, but they were still pumping out a great product.
Yep.
Where a lot of other companies will be like, okay, nobody knows who we are. We're going to put it at this price point to make this amount of profit, do these sales, work out these deals, and you're basically getting a steaming pile.
Yep, no doubt. So,
but I think that does our tangents, right?
Yeah. We are. Hopefully, we shouldn't have any more tangents today unless we bring up something.
So,
I want to definitely
an hour in, maybe.
Yeah,
I don't know how far in we are.
Well, we're about an hour and a half in, and we are going to talk about Star Wars.
Yes.
Sure, we're going to get back to that Star Wars stuff, because I think we got. I mean, like, there's other games that I wanted. Yeah, if I don't have to talk about, it's no big deal. But like when we were last talking about it, he brought up the Boba Fett and the what'd you call it? The filibuster. Yeah.
Yeah, filibuster.
That suffered. See, Book of Boba Fett and Obi-Wan were both supposed to be movies when they were originally brought up. They were going to be movies. Then they were canceled. Then all of a sudden they were going to be TV shows, which we're thrilled to bits about, at least at the time before we saw them. Now, don't get me wrong. Right. I think they're both very good shows. Mm-hmm. Obi-Wan, like I said early on in the podcast, definitely would have held up better if they'd have just let it go all at one time instead of the weeks between. Book of Boba Fett, same exact fault. The first episode just left you wondering where the hell you were going, because nobody got it. I really think nobody got it at first. They didn't realize that you're watching a man who's being put through an evolution, because now all of a sudden they've got a Boba Fett who ain't badass, and they don't know why. They didn't realize that these flashbacks. Because I'm taking that from what I remember from all the comments after the first week, when nobody's seen the rest of it. They're just seeing the first episode, and they're all making the same assumption. And I'm like,
I fell in love with the badass Boba Fett who had a jetpack and blah blah blah.
Yeah, a jetpack and a Corvette, man.
Flamethrower.
Yeah. So I think it was lost on a lot of people. Had it been the whole show, I think it would have come together a lot quicker.
Well, that's something that I think a lot of diehard Star Wars fans from our era kind of miss are these new types of stories, because this was an afterlife story in a way, because the old Boba Fett died in that Starlight pit, right?
Yeah, and he was reborn as a Tusken Sand Raider.
Yep, exactly. Had to learn everything all new.
Yeah.
Kenobi, like personally. All right. There's so much to say about Kenobi. I loved Alec Guinness. I thought he played a great Kenobi, even if he didn't take the role seriously.
Right.
He thought he was too good for it.
Yeah.
But still did a great job. In canon, I will say, if you want to talk about, Luke had this kind of seduction with the dark side. It wasn't so much a seduction, but it was something that was present. There was always the threat that he was going to lean towards the dark side.
Yeah, I thought that was glossed over a little too much, too. I didn't think that was blatantly obvious as it should have been.
But if you look into it, you have to think, who is responsible for that? Because it's not his father. As far as he's concerned, his father's dead.
Right.
It's not Darth Vader, because Darth Vader is who he points his anger at. It's not Yoda. Who's left? Who else has been...
Obi-Wan.
Involved. Obi was the one that told him that Darth Vader killed his father. He was the one that introduced him to the Force. And I thought that was an interesting element, and it was interesting to see in the series of Obi-Wan Kenobi this opening of him working a shit job, living out in the desert, having nothing going for him, and just like to have fallen so far, right, along with the Jedi.
Mm-hmm.
I know a lot of people hated that, but I thought it was great.
Well, I think it falls into the exact same thing as Boba Fett, though. Just what we were saying, that everybody wants the badass Boba Fett, and then here we are with Obi-Wan, and it's not badass Obi-Wan, it's pussy Obi-Wan. Yeah, he's broken from the Force. He doesn't want to connect with it because he's afraid. Well, he thought Anakin was dead, for one. But he's afraid of getting found by the Emperor and his acolytes, or what? Not acolytes, whatever they called.
The Order.
The Order, yeah. So, and I think it was a little hard for me too on that one. Whereas I didn't care about Boba Fett so much. I got that from the beginning. It was hard for me to accept the disconnect from the Force with Obi-Wan.
Right.
Because even with the disconnect from the Force, it still seems like, I don't know. It just still seems like it would be in you no matter what, to a point.
Yeah, but I mean, that's kind of a common thing that you find throughout Star Wars media, is this idea of being detached from the Force for different reasons, and it's usually an internal thing.
Well, I mean, the midi-chlorians make up the Force, and the midi-chlorians are inside him, so they're either there or they're
inside
not.
You.
Yeah, deep inside me.
God, the midichlorians.
Yeah.
Do we want to go down this route?
Well, I guess George needed a plot device.
Something. I will say, for all that they did wrong, there were certain things in the prequels that they did right. I do kind of feel like so there's this disconnect. We've been talking about the Book of Boba Fett, Obi-Wan, Mando to a less extent, but the thing that really changed was the idea in the older movies. We had the great set design, we had great costumes, everything informed everything, and it felt real.
Yeah.
And the direction had its own style too. And in all these others, it felt like not real costumes. You had some blank areas in a lot of the sets.
Yeah. A lot of blue screens.
Yeah. And in Obi-Wan specifically, it felt like there was a big disconnect between the director and what's her name? The bad female lead.
Kathleen Kennedy.
No, well, yeah, but
I'm sorry. You're talking about in the show, the bad girl.
Yeah.
The black girl. I can't think of her name. You're talking about her character. I don't.
Yeah, it really felt like there was a disconnect in the direction there. It sounds like a good, reasonable character, and there's nothing wrong necessarily with her acting.
Right.
But it was just it just didn't feel like it was what it was supposed to be.
Yeah, it felt off, and I can attest to her acting because I told you I saw that girl after everybody was giving her the shit, and she got on Twitter and said whatever she said. She is so far from that character in real life. Right. You would have to appreciate her acting just for that alone. So she's no amateur, certainly. But, I thought the director was off on a lot of stuff because, I mean, the locations, looking like California. And then the humps where he fought Vader, or Vader and him see each other, those little humps and everything. Right. That was weak sauce, buddy.
The chase scenes with the little girl, they were a little rough for me.
Yeah.
I did love her as a young Leia, but there was just a lot of stuff that was centered around her that really didn't work for me.
Oh, yeah, she was a good Leia. I loved the little actress.
Yeah. But I will say, I think there weren't green screens, right? Wasn't that done? And I can't remember if it was previously called or is now called.
Oh, that's volume. The volume. Yeah, no, it's the volume for sure. Yeah.
And that's some of the failures of it that we saw, both in Book of Boba Fett and Kenobi and all that, is it does great with a lot of stuff. And there's probably a lot of plugins that you could develop to make it even better.
Yeah.
But when you're dealing with a wide open space, it's a little lackluster.
Yeah. They could have done stuff to dress it up, man. It's just...
Yeah.
It just seems like they just cheapened out on the visual effects a lot. There were a lot of shots I thought that they just... It's like... Okay, so I told you it was going to be a movie at first. It's like they had a initial budget of whatever, and they're like, okay, we're canceling these, but now we've decided to redo it, but this is going to be your budget now, and we need you to do 6 episodes. And that really shone in a couple of episodes.
That's really what it felt like for me. It could have been that. It also could have been new talent without the connections that old talent has.
Right.
To deliver, good stuff at a cheap price.
Yeah.
I will say, Andor fixed a lot of that.
Oh man, Andor is on another level compared to these others. Mando and Andor stand in a world of their own. Whereas, don't get me wrong, man, Obi-Wan and Book of Boba Fett are chef's kiss, great TV shows to watch. Well, I'm glad they're one-offs. I guess let me put it that way. They're movies. Let's just say they're movies. That's what they are. They're movies.
Episodic movies.
Yeah, they're episodic movies, and how I'll watch it is as a one whole. So, one glorious whole. But Andor and Mando, man, they're hitting it on all cylinders.
I personally feel like there was a lot in the story of Mando that I liked. As far as Andor was concerned, I don't know. It kind of felt like there was something missing in the story for me.
Oh man,
and I couldn't tell you what it is, but it was something.
I don't know.
There was a lack of a presence somewhere.
I just feel like it was just everything I've ever wanted in the Star Wars TV show. Just seeing how
the direction
the
was
Empire
good.
lives. Yeah, just seeing how everybody lives.
The costumes were on point in Andor.
Yep.
The sets were also on point. Well, for the most part, there were a couple of spots that were kind of weird, but overall, the sets were like the old style sets.
It was very beautiful.
And they just did a lot right that was kind of missing in the whole post Jedi verse, I guess.
Perhaps. I don't know. I just loved every minute. I see Pepper popping up back there.
Yeah, me too.
Let's hope she doesn't bother us. She'll come make an appearance and start whining at me.
Yeah.
Maybe I'll introduce her in a minute. Yeah. So, yeah, I don't know. I mean, I hope that they continue, because here's the thing. There's this guy Mike Zero on YouTube who I just can't stand. This guy putting out these videos he keeps putting out. He's got a hard on for Kathleen Kennedy, and from what I hear from other people, his
you should probably clarify that a little, right? His hard on for Kathleen.
well, he doesn't like her, that's for sure. Which, I mean, you know, I can agree for a lot of reasons, but
a lot of people do.
But he does like 3 or 4 videos a day about it, and it's just something every single day. And but a lot of people say that his predictions don't come true. Pepper, go lay down, sweetie. I forgot where I was going with that, thanks to my dog. Oh yeah, he's saying so. Like the Acolyte and the other show that she's kind of head over. I forget the name. It's Go Lay Down, Pepper. Oh hell, I had it the other day. Anyway, it doesn't matter. Yeah. But there's a couple shows that are coming out that already people are taking a shit on because the Filoni and Favreau aren't involved, and they're worried. Like, she's trying to do a whitewash of the George Lucas Star Wars style, and people are taking a real dump on that.
Yeah. Well, I mean, there is also another person that did some stuff with Star Wars that everybody hates, right?
Yeah.
So I think a lot of times people get a bad rap that it's a sexist thing, but overall there are people that miss the point of Star Wars, right?
Yeah.
And I think that's the big concern.
Well, I reckon everybody feels like she has a woke agenda too, I think. They're scared of that. But also they hear a whitewashing of George Lucas and everybody gets freaked out, you know. I don't know. I mean, it just remains to be seen. I'll take the show with all the other shows I've taken and watch it and judge it at that point.
Right.
Yeah.
We did not mention Eclipse. This kind of ties in. It is a Star Wars game.
Yeah. Is that the one I had on my lips? Yeah, Eclipse. That's the... I just found out about it today. That's why it's on the list.
Yeah, same. I do like the idea of being able to play lightsaber wielders and something else. Right? Everybody thinks of Star Wars, you think of Jedi Sith. Basically, those are characters that you usually play in a lot of their games and other stuff, although not always. I will say I played Tor for a while, the Old Republic. It was an MMO. It may not have been massive, but it was an online multiplayer game.
Yeah.
And the cool thing was the scoundrels in that game could stand on par with everybody else. Without lightsabers, you know, it was, you know, a different understanding of the world for me in other classes. And I think that's one thing a lot of people want to see is I always have a problem with the Outer Rim because there's so much possibility, but they always fall back on the same stories, right?
Or the same planets.
Yeah. Same planets, similar stories. You know, you're dealing with force sensitives, maybe, let's say, right?
Yeah.
You don't really get a feel for the natives or a lot of that other stuff. And that was one thing I meant to mention earlier. It felt like there has been a lot of absence of makeup and you know, costume. Not just, you know, the clothes, but you know, the making of an alien race through makeup and whatnot.
Yeah.
And a lot of stuff. But the thing with the Outer Rim is these are the outer reaches. This is like what Australia used to be back in the day, where they, you know, got their shit together and
right.
became whatever they are now. You know, the events on Coruscant don't really concern you, right? Out in the Outer Realm,
right? Yeah.
And I feel like a lot of times that gets kind of glossed over in a lot of these because it's basically just repackaging and selling an old story.
That's why I loved Andor so much, though. But you're saying exactly what I was saying and did in different words, because that I love seeing that their lives. Like I said, I loved seeing that the head Imperial girl, doing her thing, working in her office and having to go to meetings and having people fuck with her just like people in real life fuck with us in meetings. You always got your nemesis at work. It's always trying to one up you and stuff. Well, you can relate to that and that, but it's cool seeing that in a Star Wars environment. And then you go over to what was the name of his planet? Is that where Andor lived? Man, I've obviously not watched this.
It's been far too long since I've seen it.
But anyways, yes, just seeing how they live. They've all got their gloves on the walls and stuff like that, and just different aspects. All the bricks of the buildings are all headstones, for lack of a better word. Their body, their ashes in a brick. That's cool. Having that different customs and stuff that you're finding out about.
That's one of the reasons I give Andor a lot of leash on that, because despite this haunting feeling of an absence that I have, I can appreciate all of that, which is what I think a lot of Star Wars fans want to see. Yeah. It's an expansion of the universe and not a repackaged story.
That's it, buddy. That's it. That's exactly what I think it is. That was my attraction.
But that is Eclipse. Eclipse, you're supposed to be spending a lot of time in the Outer Rim, supposedly.
Yeah. Yeah, it's another open world game. I got a whole list of open world games that I can't wait to come out. And I don't know why Diablo 4 is on. I might have just put that in there, but it was on somebody's list. I'm like, see, that's one of those that gets an open world title that I don't call open world.
Right.
Because it's top down.
I was going to mention a name that we missed when we were talking about BioWare, Oblivion, Lucasfilm, dude. That's who's doing Eclipse. Monkey Island. There were so many games throughout the years.
Weren't Star Wars. Yeah.
Yeah. That Lucasfilm did that were great games.
Grim Fandango.
Yeah.
Full Throttle.
Yeah. There was one I'm trying to remember now.
Of course, my favorite, man. Y'all used to have to go to when we would go to the gallery and go to the electronic stores. I mean, the software stores. Mm-hmm. I get the X-Wing. I remember a long time just staring at the box, going, "I wish I could play this on my computer."
Yeah, and that was the thing that Lucasfilm was great about, because they did adventure games, or action adventure games. They did point-and-click adventures. They did kind of flight sim type stuff, mm-hmm. And there were bugs here and there in certain games. Yes.
Oh yeah, no doubt.
But overall, they delivered on something that I
LucasArts
was enriched.
Yeah, you were calling it.
Oh yeah, I don't know why I said
LucasArts.
Yeah, LucasArts. It's because I see the Lucasfilm on all the stuff that we've been watching.
Yeah, LucasArts has been a good company over the years, no doubt.
Agreed. One thing I would like to see more in dealing with the Jedi, and I can't remember if this was in Legends or before that. People don't talk a lot about style in the Star Wars universe. Lightsaber wielding takes on almost like Bushido Code styles. Mm-hmm. And I always thought that was a very interesting aspect of Jedi and Sith interactions, was how these styles work together or against one another.
Yeah, that was something introduced in Knights of the Old Republic, I think, is when I kind of first saw it. The different ways of, was it like Sentinel and different, but there was also different ways you would carry your saber as well.
Right.
And
there were different ways of attack if you were more defensive oriented,
right?
How you held your blade, your stance,
exactly.
Just all kinds of things that applied to it was this style
to counter a Sith style, of a certain style.
Yeah. And Obi-Wan cool. always had the unique one because his style he kind of stole from everything, but you did have an overall style of just give and take, of egging on whoever he was facing.
Yeah.
And I always loved that aspect of that. That you really don't get to see in any of the films.
Like a little tease, a little bit. Like, come on, man. Come on, you can bring it a little bit harder than that. Come on.
Yeah. A little more.
A little bit cocky. That's all right. That's what almost kept him from becoming a master, wasn't it?
Yeah, it was. I don't know. It just feels like a lot of times things fall short in the Outer Rim, in my opinion.
Yeah.
Although, Attack of the Clones, Obi-Wan versus Grievous, that was...
Yeah, that was cool. That was a cool piece for sure. Yeah.
I think that's everything I have on the list. We can dive more into Star Wars. We can
the timing's
in another
good.
direction if we want.
The timing's good. We have probably about 10 minutes before I'm going to have to start getting where I need to get out of here. But, since we have a little bit of time left, I will bring up some of these games coming up. And we mentioned a bunch of them already. I mentioned Avowed right off the bat. Of course, Cyberpunk, Phantom Liberty, Star Wars Eclipse, and Jedi Survivor are coming out. Knights of the Old Republic remake. Skull and Bones. This is one I'm really looking forward to because I love pirates. Which is funny because I have not played the... what's the one that's on Xbox right now? It's even my avatar picture. It's the pirate
I was
game.
Just thinking of it a second ago because I was going to mention
think of it as Sea something or other.
Sea of Thieves.
Sea of Thieves, yeah. Yeah, I haven't played it yet, but it's downloaded. I hope I get a chance to get to it, but it's probably going to end up not liking it because it's such a multiplayer thing, but we'll see. Sometimes I'd give or take multiplayer, man. It just really depends on the game. If the game was designed as a single-player story and they tack multiplayer on top of it, I guess I'm okay with that. But if it's just designed multiplayer from the get-go and then a single-player story was added after the fact, I definitely don't like that because it's never given it any justice.
Way in some games.
Yeah. Of course, Diablo 4 comes out in June, they say.
Got to mention that, right?
Yeah.
Here's the funny thing. Big day.
Yeah, Brian and I played Diablo. What's it called? No, the one we just played this past summer. Immortal. And we both soured on that right about the same time. I lasted only about a week longer because I really didn't know he had completely left yet. Had I known, I would have left at exactly the same time. But yeah, it was just ridiculous. And I don't know that I'm that excited about Diablo 4 just from that experience alone. I almost wish I didn't experience Diablo Immortal.
I don't know. I think Diablo Immortal is going to do a lot to inform them on what people want to see.
That's a valid theory, yeah. I could see that.
And I think that could be invaluable to them. They're getting a ton of metrics because there's a ton of people that are playing it waiting for... Well, I say there were a ton of people playing it waiting for Diablo 4. Most of us burned the hell out.
Oh, real quick. Brian only lasted 2 months.
Yeah.
That was it. And we got a buddy who's still solid into it.
Of course, we were keeping up with everything.
Yeah, we were way... I mean, they were ahead of... the buddy of mine we're talking about, he's still playing it this very minute. I'm sure he's all over. He has like 8 characters or something like that. He loves it. And... but no. After 2 months, man, I was just like, enough's enough. I mean, I basically beat the game 3 times over. Right. You know, it's just so much grinding. It's just not even fun. Not even fun at all. So,
of course, people will say that as all Diablo is grinding, right? Doing dungeons.
I guess, but I mean, in the old game, before there was multiplayer, you know, well, that's not true. I shouldn't say multiplayer. In the old game, there was a point. Right. Like this one goes so far, and then the point's over. Yeah. Once you get past the single player mission, you're just grinding to be grinding. I mean, I guess they're adding stuff here and there, and you got your monthly. Yeah, but still, it's not enough. It's really not
they were
enough.
teasing stuff for the future, and they have introduced some more stuff. But the stuff I've seen from when we quit to now, or I guess I should say probably about a month ago.
Yeah,
it's just filler.
Yeah,
it's more stuff.
Cash grab.
Yeah. Well, I don't think it's even that. I think it's trying to expand and build towards like a vision, but it's kind of like on some level they have to know that once 4 comes out, Immortal's done with.
Yeah, I think it dies, doesn't it? I don't know how. They would have done better by just making 4 their mobile, some way making it mobile somehow, if they could have done that. I mean, they made this one's PC. You can play it on a PC. So I don't know why they couldn't do it. Yeah, so I don't know why they couldn't do it with this. They should have just waited. But maybe it's just like you say. They wanted to get on the bandwagon, for one, of mobile games, I think, is the main thing.
Well, I was actually surprised. PUBG on mobile was one of kind of the first games that did that below that line.
Yeah, that
I can think of. But who was it? Apex just canceled their mobile version.
Oh yeah,
yeah.
Wow.
Apex Legends.
I mean, these phones can do so much, and they're more than capable of playing a lot of these games.
Right.
But but maybe they just, like you said, they just looked at it as a way to get some metrics for Diablo 4.
Well, get metrics and kind of boost their sales a little.
Yeah. I don't know, because I hadn't even played Diablo 3, which it seems like this looked to me, from what I've seen of Diablo 3, just kind of like the same thing, really.
Well, there were. I can see where you're coming from with that. There was some stuff in it, but I mean, at this day and age, it's kind of like it really does not hold up.
Yeah, but I think what I'm saying, because there was a lot of stuff that seems similar, because stuff that our friend brought up. I was just like, because he kept referencing Diablo 3 a lot. That this was in Diablo 3, this was in Diablo. I'm like, oh, okay. Sounds like that was the basis of this game, and they just kind of it's a DLC for
They're
Diablo 3.
Using this as a hopscotch.
Yeah, I mean, it's basically, let's make a DLC for Diablo 3, make it mobile, and it's now Diablo Inferno.
I think you're right. I think that's pretty close to the mark.
Yeah. So
more games?
Yeah, Dragon Age Dreadwolf, which I have one of the Dragon Age games. I played it for not very long, 10, 15 minutes. I don't dislike the concept. It just wasn't grabbing my attention. But this is a whole ball of wax compared to those games, I'm sure.
I had the same experience. I got like a few minutes into one of the Dragon Age games, and you're just kind of like me.
Yeah. I don't know. I'm not big on stopping combat.
Yeah.
I'm just not that guy. I'm not big on that, man. I know that, like turn-based games and stuff like that. I've never been, the original Fallout games. And the Warhammer games were the same way. They were hand in hand. They were exactly the same. Now they're getting out. They've broken that mold. Look how big they're getting. Redfall. I can't wait for Redfall. It's a vampire game. I hope it delivers. Because you got like Vampire the Masquerade, Bloodline 2, which I didn't even know 1 came out.
Really?
Is that it? Wait. Okay. Well, let me.
Bloodlines is pretty old.
Okay, so they're going off the old one. So where I got confused is I knew that they were making a new one.
Right.
But for some reason, I thought that it had been so long that one had come out, and that this was a sequel to that one. So so this is just 2 from that one way back in the day, which I pulled that one out, by the way, not too long ago.
Yeah.
Yeah, because I really loved that game.
It was okay. There was another one. I can't remember the name of. But there was a PC vampire game besides Bloodlines.
Yeah,
I can never find it. But I was really attracted to it because of just kind of being a little familiar with Vampire the Masquerade and seeing with differences from other RPGs.
You talking about the one that was just like that one that came out a couple of years ago? It was just like screens. It was really really crap.
This was one where like you start in like an olden age, and you explore that area, and eventually you hit a point that brings you to the modern world.
Yeah, I think that was the second one from back then. I have both of them.
Right.
I don't know if I played the second one though. I remember finding out that it came out, and I was like, "What? They came out with another game?" You know, I had no idea back then. So yeah, I'm looking forward to that one probably more than the Redfall, just because I loved the original so much. I hope they can. Because let's be honest, the original had all the mechanics. Well, all the inventory screens were exactly like Diablo, original Diablo. Right. The gameplay was nothing like Diablo, but
right. Well, that's the thing about anything with Vampire the Masquerade. It's already got a rich mythos behind it already.
Yep.
So there's a lot that you can work with.
Yeah, well, and really, it's surprising it took them this long to come out with something new. I'm glad to see they are.
They have had other games. There's the one that you mentioned, and I think there was another one, maybe two others that they released between Bloodline.
Yeah.
But yeah, I don't know. I think I've told you about the time I went to Dragon Con one year, and White Wolf had this werewolf game that they were demoing. I thought it was amazing, and of course it never came to fruition. I'm sure that happens a lot with their products.
Probably, yeah.
Because they've always had an issue with licensing.
That would have been awesome. I remember when the werewolf book came out back in the day, and we just incorporated it into Vampire immediately, because that was long before you had all the Kotri sub books and all that stuff. It was just the Vampire book and just the werewolf book like a year later, and we loved the hell out of that. The only other game I had on the list was X Killer. Yeah. That looks really cool.
Not familiar with it.
Yeah, it just looked really good to me, man. I don't know what the story is behind it, but definitely something that I'm going to want to keep my eyes on. And that's all.
What is a little bit about it?
I have no idea. I can't remember. Dude, I watched so much stuff today. Trying to make sure we had some news, the latest news, and that was all one video just about. It was like 25 games coming out in 2023, 2024, and then I'd watched a couple more because I was trying to find this. There's this one game coming out that finally dropped a demo 2 days ago. Jesus, now I'm gonna forget the name. What's shit? Oh, I almost had it. The day after. No, the day before. The day before.
Yeah.
Called the day before.
Day after was.
Yeah. After tomorrow. Yeah. This movie looked great.
No, there was the day after was like an old movie.
Yeah. This game is very much like it looks like State of Decay a lot. And it had a lot of hype. Steam, watch like wish list or whatever was huge for this game. But, nobody knows anything about it. And then they were supposed to come out with this preview or whatever. And then they said they weren't going to because they had some legal issue or whatever over the name. And then all of a sudden they come out and say, well, we're dropping it in 2 days. And they dropped this trailer that proves they have something. But it's like I said, anybody with Unreal 5 can make a demo trailer nowadays because they stayed on this one road. Didn't show multiple stuff. It was just this one area. So, given enough time,
and you see that all over the place. You see, these fake demos out there.
And bro, Unreal 5,
somebody that knows models and has a program.
And Unreal 5, especially at the end of when Unreal 4 introduced their deal where you can download models, but Unreal 5 took that to a whole new level, especially with the stuff it can do. And buddy, let me tell you, you can. I mean, like they already have like a game for you to download for Unreal 5. So all you got to do is take that game and if you're a decent artist, change all the assets. And that's it. The mechanics are already there. And you don't even need that. You don't even need the mechanics really other than maybe hitting a foe or something. But instantly you can walk around in that world, and that's all you need to do in a trailer.
Well, let's be clear. In Unreal 5, you have a few different things you can do. You can import different backgrounds and areas, whatever, composites. But you can also take LiDAR scans, real world objects, and import them.
Yep.
So there's all kind of tools to get assets. And you know, like you said, you can just build something, throw in some assets, make a model, and make them perform, and you know, make a fake demo.
Yeah, yeah. Well, I tell you what, I think Pepper's making it to where this is a good time for us to start wrapping it up. I've got to get.
It looks like she's trying to get your attention.
Yeah, she's probably dying to go to the bathroom, but we'll get her out there in just a minute because I gotta go get the wife soon anyway. But yeah, this was a good episode. We got a lot of the stuff that I didn't get accomplished in the first one done. We finally got to some Star Wars talk in the end, and
eventually, not as much as we could have, but you know, we're working on a timeline. We did hit that timeline we're looking for.
Yep. We're looking at staying in a regular schedule, so hopefully these videos will be coming out the same day they've been coming out.
Yeah, I think Saturday's a good idea. We may work on the time a little bit, whatever works best.
Yeah. Right now, in my mind, if it's not Saturday, it's probably Friday. We're gonna introduce. We want to introduce a live chat. We'll probably start streaming this, you know, and then putting it up on YouTube after. Things like that. So we're growing
up the chat.
Yeah, and you know, have the live chat going and. We're everything, you know, like we said in the first episode, baby steps.
Yeah.
It's really easy to put out a podcast of audio. It's just a little more difficult to do the video part of it. Not much more, but especially the way I'm doing it. But if we start introducing, you know, where I'm showing you what we're talking about on screen and all that good stuff, then we're starting to get into a lot of time. And just learning what I did, you know, this is the first time working with video when I posted last week's episode, and now I know how long it takes just to upload stuff and that kind of thing.
Adding the video to the audio,
much
bigger file.
Yeah, much bigger files to work with. Computer wants, you know, the software wants a computer with more oomph, more nuts,
right?
So so. Basically, what I figured out is that if we record Friday or Saturday, I have the weekend to get it all uploaded, edited, and ready for y'all on Monday morning. So that's kind of what we're looking at.
Yeah, and we'll allow that and more as time goes on, and we will eventually get to a point where we will have like regular day and time for a broadcast. Right now, we're still getting our legs beneath us.
Yep, trying to figure out all the details.
But we're getting there.
Yeah, I think we're doing a pretty good job of it so far. And also, too, we're going to eventually have where the audio-only portions are available to people. That's what I started doing originally, was audio-only. So adding video in has been a new thing for me. So we'll get it all down, and hopefully it'll be something you really enjoy and won't want to miss every week. And I want to remind you, please hit that subscribe button and hit that like button. Help us grow and grow with us. And you can see
leave us some comments,
please,
suggestions, anything that you think could make the show better. Let us know.
Yeah, and if you have a better idea for a logo that's better than mine, you want to send it, by all means. That won't hurt my feelings. All right, thank you guys so much. As always,
good night, everybody.
We'll see you on the flip side. Take care now.